You're listening to Punisher Waterfowls, the Union 0430 podcast. Brought to you by Real Geese Decoys, the most technologically advanced silhouette decoy on the market. First Light, the best hunting gear on the planet. Go farther, stay longer. And Ducklander Calls, tradition, education, and quality. Built to hunt.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Union 0430. This is episode 159, and I am very, very proud to have a couple veterans on with me coming to us from the great US of A. We have Ryan Burnett and Brody Hensley. And of course, there's a third wheel here, but he's a safety manager, and he's probably tied up somewhere in a back room because nobody likes a safety manager. So he may come on as we're doing this, but we're going to kick this off. So Ryan's up in my top left-hand corner. Brody is down in the bottom. They are 2/3 of the owners of a really exciting, cool company called Pattern Pros. Check them out on social media, give them a like and the whole bit. But I think you're going to be really, really surprised with what they're doing. And it's another one of those ideas where I was like, why in the fuck didn't I think of this? And but they'll explain it all to you, and we're in for a great show. So Ryan, Brody, boys, thanks so much for coming on. And I gotta apologize. We were supposed to have you on, I think it was like 2 weeks ago, Ryan, and our schedules just got all messed up. And then I was thinking we were recording at 10 o'clock tonight. Ryan messaged me like, I think we're on 10 o'clock this morning. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds about right. Makes more sense than 10 o'clock at night.
It's been all over the place.
So. We should have done military time. That would have
made it a lot easier.
Yeah, that would have cleared up a lot of things.
Like I said, I'm not that smart, so I didn't think of it until 30 minutes before 10 o'clock. So,
well, and I gotta admit, I'm not that smart either. So you got to dumb shit down for me pretty good. So dumbing it down to military time, that would have helped a lot. But it's all good. We're here, and I'm happy to have you guys on the show. I genuinely and sincere when I say this is a really cool idea, and I'd like for you guys to give an explanation to all the millions of listeners that we have, and let us know all about it, because I really do think that this is something awesome for our Canadian listeners. Sorry, boys, this is a long-winded rant. For our Canadian listeners, this isn't going to work for us because, as you know, it's easier to get ammo in Afghanistan than what it is in Canada. So, this episode is focused on our American friends 100%. Once we get rid of this liberal Trudeau up here, maybe we'll be able to bring the boys in and offer this service up here. So, Ryan, Brody, over to you guys.
Well, I'll start, and then Brody will kind of dive into the weeds. But yes. Well, first of all, we do actually have a patterning pack or a targets, so the Canadians can still buy that. You just
awesome.
Can't buy the ammo, so you can actually see your shot on paper, which actually is quite eye opening once you start messing around with different shells and chokes and guns. So for you Canucks up there, that's
you can buy the ammo. That's hopefully in the future, is getting it up there and getting it to as many people as possible. But to pretty much boil it down, what we do. Let me explain this in a simple way. You know what a charcuterie board is of like cheeses and stuff like that? We just did the same thing with.
Fancy.
Yeah, we just did the same thing with shotgun shells.
You're a fucking Marine. You don't know what a charcuterie board is.
Sure,
he had to ask his wife.
I had neighbors. What are you talking about? I've been since I was 3 years old and whatnot, and duck hunting has just been a consistent part of my life and everything that I've done. So when it comes to just become an apex predator of duck hunting, you know, just always looking on how to get better. Like, okay, decoy spreads, this, and this, you know, trying to get better at duck calling, you know, shooting, especially being in the Marine Corps background, shooting was a lot to us. So while I got out in 2020, you know, I was just like buying shotguns left and right, testing them all, trying to, you know, a new ammo company would come out. I'm like, well, I want to try that. I want to try this tungsten. I want to try this bismuth. I want to try this stacked load, this blended load. But each one of those boxes, I mean, like as a young Marine that just got out of the service, I really wasn't making a whole lot of money, but I wanted to try all these. But so, you know, I'd buy a box of tungsten and it was like $60 and it patterned like crap. And I'm like, well, this is no good. Now I'm left with a box of $60. I was like, really, I just need 3 shots. I just need one at 20, one at 30, and one at 40 to give me a general idea. So with that, I was having a phone conversation with Ryan one day, and you know, I was probably bitching, moaning about the cost of ammo. I'm like, dude, you know, I just bought 4 boxes. That's you know, $120. I just to see how they shoot is just kind of ridiculous to me. So I was, you know, we started pitching ideas back and forth. I was like, well, why don't we just create a 1 box with, you know, 8 brams, 3 cells each. I'll give you 24 shots, but it covers the spectrum of steel, bismuth, and tungsten all in 1 box. So once I find out what my gun likes to shoot, you know, that's the ammo that I will be buying, because instead of buying a case before the season, well, if that increases my shooting odds, then well, you know, I won't need to buy a case. I'm saving money ultimately, even though the shell is more expensive. You're buying less of it because your kill to hit ratio is getting better. So, and then from there, it really just kind of spawned off of a lot of different things, you know, 12 gauge, 20 gauge, and just trying to do the data to where people can determine what they shoot the best so they can help along with conservation as well. Because like crippling birds, especially down here in Oklahoma,
100%, buddy.
You know, you see the duck numbers every year, and you're just like, well, it seems like they're constantly, there's like just more and more groups of birds that's just like in the red, and it's just going down and down and down. So I was like, well, how can we impact that as well? So with better shooting, hopefully cuts down on those crippled birds to put more birds back into the breeding population, you know, because if I go out and shoot a limit of 6, but I crippled 7 of them, well, that's, you know, that's that many birds that could potentially have this many chicks in that breeding population that's not there. And if you do that and you multiply it across the country, across both countries, you know, in Canada, through the United States, and then by the time they come back from the South back through here, you're talking, I mean, I think there's a Delta waterfowl thing, 1.7, 1.8 million birds that's crippled each year. Just because poor shooting, you know, a lot of people just don't understand their capabilities with the shotgun or what their shot looks like. Oh yeah, the shotgun shoots great, but if your pattern is open, you got holes all in it. You're like, dude, I just watched feathers come out of a duck. Why is he flying away? Well, let's put it on paper and let's see how it actually looks. And it's very eye opening what you can do and what you can see when you put your shell on paper, because it might just not be the best one for you. So,
Brody, buddy, we've got to hit the pause button here right now, because Christian, welcome to the show, brother. You're on mute, dude. But I got to tell you, before we hit the record button, the amount of shit that was thrown at you for being late, I'm going to tell you, it was impressive. So I'm glad you made it on, because I wanted to personally let you know that Ryan and Brody are they're relentless on you, dude.
Man, it's a never ending. I mean, there's always the one guy part of the crew, right? It's okay. I just accept it. You know, my life is just crazy. I was thinking when I was calling in, I was like, you know, what can I say? I said, what justifies it? I was like, I'm just an average dude. I just work all the time. I try to fit this in between my life, you know, just super. Did they tell you the story about how they stranded me on a hunt in California with no clothes or ammo?
Yeah, they most certainly did. They most certainly did tell me that story.
Yeah.
I love how
and
we stranded you, not the fact that you were not at your house and at the neighbor's house, probably drinking a beer instead of being standing there waiting for us to get there and then look at us go, did you grab my bag with all my clothes and ammo? No, we did not.
In the morning.
That's awesome.
That was an interesting hunt.
Yeah,
But hey, I appreciate it. Sorry for the tardiness here.
No, that's all good, brother. That's all good. Welcome to the show. Feel free to jump in and listen. Feel free to throw some shit at Ryan and Brody too, because don't let them. Oh yeah, I bet.
I've got an arsenal, bro.
Yeah, I bet. But Brody, like I really like what you were saying. So up here in Canada on the Facebook groups, usually around that June, July timeframe, and this isn't throwing any shade at anybody. This is just an observation from a guy that watches all these Facebook groups and things. And around June, July, we always start seeing these posts with, hey, I've got a Beretta A400, which choke, which ammo is the best combination.
I see that all the time too.
Yeah, all the time, right? And then, you'll always get guys go, listen, man, every gun is different. You've got to get out and you've got to put rounds on paper. That's the only way that you're ever going to decide, right?
Yeah.
So, when I'm looking at what you guys are doing, and again, it's one of those things where I'm like, man, why didn't I think of that? You're taking all of the expense out of it. I get it that there's still an expense you had to buy into the box.
Yeah.
But like you're saying, you're not left then with 22 shells in a box that you're never ever going to take out on a hunt.
Yeah, I mean it's really just saving the end user money. I mean, because like you said, I have the rest of that box. When I'm going to use it is probably, I might bring it out on a hunt just shoot, cripples with it, or just do some water swatting in case I just need a
water moccasins.
But like now I'm using a tungsten shell because it shoots like crap just to cripple it, and so it really, you see those on the Facebook group all the time. It's like, hey, what choke do this? Like, I can have the same gun, 2 SBs right side by side, same choke, and they shoot different.
Absolutely.
There's so much variety that goes into it. So like, we really want to promote just, hey, here's something that's very cost effective that's going to help you find out what you need. Go out and just take some time to go out and do it, because a lot of people they pick up a shotgun and they're just like, yeah, man, it just scatters BBs. Well, that's cool. It does. But your choke does a lot of things. Your shims and everything else in your buttstock, like fitting the gun to you. I mean, when you buy a rifle or a bow, the first thing you go do is sight it in. You're not just going to go out and shoot it and just hope you hit the target. So that's what you need to do with your shotguns. If you go out and pattern it and you actually see, hey, I'm shooting a 90-10, ratio pattern, that's way too high. He's like, maybe that's why I'm missing all these birds, because you got more of a trap style, fit to your gun instead of like more of a hunting style, like a 60-40. So it's not only just finding your best pattern, it's also finding how that gun shoots for you.
Can you just explain what you were talking about there? So the 60-40, the 80-20.
So those are like pattern ratios. So if you look on a target and you have your center point that you're shooting at, and you notice like 90% of your pattern is up, above where your point of aim is. Mm-hmm. Depending on your style of shooting or what you want to do, that it all bases, like I want a 60-40 because that's more of like your hunting style, like standard, aim and shoot right there. Now, if I wanted like a 90-10 or a 70-30 because I'm trap shooting a lot and most of my shots are going up and away, then that's what I would want. But a lot of these gun companies, they do make the fitting, the stock fitting of your shotgun a little complicated. You have like 3 different shims, and one will be like a D, a DX, and then like a Z, and you're like, well, how does that play out?
Yeah.
And there's a few good YouTube videos out there, but it's mostly just finding out, you just going out there and shooting, and then you seeing how it does, and then you're like, okay, I need to put this shim to drop it this much, because like when I first got my Benelli SB3, like everybody else, it shoots high and to the left. Mm-hmm. It's just been a common problem, not really a problem, just a common thing with the Benellis. Yep. So yesterday I took it out and I was packing it. stock, brought it down and to the right. So I put it right where I wanted it to be, 60-40. So now that I know that the gun is fit to me, and I know that my pattern's good with the shell that I use, there should be no excuses on why I'm crippling birds. Now, that doesn't stop me from, you still got to go practice out on the skeet range and whatnot and go shoot and just do that, because you can have the best stuff in the world and still shoot like crap.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just taking those variables out of each thing that could go wrong. You're like, all right, cool. Well, my pattern's good. My shim and everything else, like my fit to the gun is good, but my shooting sucks. Okay, how do I fix that? Well, let's go to the skeet range. Man, it could be vice versa. Well, my shooting's good and my gun fits good, but your pattern could be. So it could be crap. So it just kind of boils down to just knowing your weapon system. And, we're all veterans here. So like knowing your gun is a very important thing to how you use it. So
the one thing
also too,
yeah, go for it, Christian.
Also too, I don't want to discount that whenever you use these shells to go in pattern and you get familiarized with how each ammunition interacts with your weapon system, you kind of know at which side placement from your point of aim that the ammo is going to hit. So you take that information and you go, because I can tell you now that we've all sat in the blinds every morning. We know, okay, we think the duck's going to be coming from our right. Let's put you in order from left to right. That's how us three hunt. We'll put Brody on the left, or because he's a left-handed shooter. But we'll put him on the right. He's a left-handed shooter, so that way we're not crossing hairs.
Yeah.
So with ducks coming in from the right, or the ducks going to be coming in from behind us because we're sitting on a hill. Well, wherever your position is that you're sitting in the blind, you can go and say, "Oh, I'm shooting this type of ammunition today. I know that it naturally hits up left. So I know that birds are going to be flying in from the right. I can adjust my aim, or they're going to be flying in from the left. I need to be maybe adjust my aim that way." So it's familiarizing the hunter with that type of ammunition, making him a little bit more educated on his weapon system, which puts more rounds on target, which is ultimately what we want.
Yeah, I'm more successful. Yeah.
Yeah, because there's a lot of guns out there that you can't shim, cast and like fit it to you. So like for the longest time, me just being lazy, I would know my vanilla would shoot high. So when mallards are coming in, I'd put it right at their feet and I'd shoot and I'd hit them right in the lips. But now that, I have guns that can be shimmed and stuff like that, now I just fit the gun to me. But like, your Mossberg, you say you got a Mossberg 500 or something like that, you can't shim that gun.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the way you can't, how they used to do it in the old days, they would actually bend the gun to fit it to you. And that is a process.
Yeah.
So now with these new modern shotguns, they really help a lot of people just get where they need to be.
I think one of the things I take for granted is the fact that, well, I'm 46 years old. I've been hunting ducks for a long time. So it's taken me 30 years to get my decoy spread, to get a premium shotgun, to have, the gear and stuff. So now when people ask me and I say things like, well, listen, you just gotta go out and buy ammo, and you gotta put rounds on paper, and you've got to figure out what your pattern is and stuff like that. And I think I sometimes take it for granted that, I'm 46 years old. I'm doing okay in life, so I can afford to go out and buy, 4 or 5 different boxes of ammo and come home and try it, right? Whereas anybody that's new, and I don't know what the ammo prices are in the States right now, but in Canada, it's ridiculous right now. So
I mean, definitely not the cheapest. I tell you that.
No.
I mean, this sport is an unforgiving sport when it comes to money.
Buddy. Yeah. So just kiss your fucking money goodbye. If
and that's one of the things that we wanted to do, was actually make it affordable. Like, we were all in the military, and you don't have a whole lot of money, so you're grabbing the cheapest thing possible. And like when we all started duck hunting together, 4 or 5 years ago, you could buy, I want to say it was Winchester Super X or Federal Speed Shot for like $12 a box.
Yeah.
And I've seen it more than double that now.
Yeah.
So it's only gotten more and more expensive. So you're right. Hey, you're buying stuff off the shelf, and it may work, and you'll probably go kill birds with it.
Mm-hmm.
But for anybody who's chased ducks and waders, it sucks. So if you
Ryan
can,
is a professional at chasing ducks.
oh, absolutely. I got phenomenal shape one season. The next season, I was like, screw that. I'm shooting them. I don't care if they're twitching. I'm not doing it again. Letting it rip.
Yeah.
And so just to make it cheaper to actually find something that it's actually going to work for you.
Yeah.
As well as, I mean, I guarantee you every person here duck hunts has missed out on other birds that are working because they're out chasing cripples.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
we're not going to stare at trees. I mean, it's like if you just do the time while you're to work on your pattern stuff, you're not like
And-
you're going out there to shoot and kill. And you're not going out there just like, oh, I shot 25 times and came home with 2 birds. You're like, what?
Yeah.
That's expensive.
And even more so if you're one of these guys that is determined to shoot bismuth or tungsten, right? I lost my train of thought there, fellas. It was going to be
That
good
stuff's
too.
not cheap
It was
either.
going to be
No,
it
that
was
stuff
going
is
to
not
be
cheap.
it was going to be awesome, like Emmy award winning shit too, right? Like it was going to be good,
The speed
and I
out,
totally
yeah.
lost it. So,
Well, you were going on the right track. I mean, that stuff is not cheap. Think about how much money that you're spending. Let's say the average hunter doesn't have, he's got a minimum wage job,
Yeah.
right? He's just an average minimum wage, medium, like a construction worker. I work in the construction industry.
Yeah.
That's where I come from. So a lot of these guys and girls out here don't make a killing, but they make enough money to be able to go home, eat dinner, have electricity, and go hunting. They're not sitting there focused on, I need to buy, bismuth or this particular type of ammo. They're going to go and see what's the cheapest that they can for that hunt.
Yeah.
Then when they get low, they're going to go to a different store. So, and you get to a point where you find what ammo matches your weapon system, and it makes life easier for you. You know that Benelli shoots better with Kent, or that Mossberg shoots better with Winchester, and that's what you go for. And then when you do see it in the store, you're like, oh man, thank God I went and got that Pattern Pros, and I took the time out to pattern that weapon system. Now I see the ammo that works better for my weapon system. Let me go ahead and grab a couple extra boxes during the off season when the stock is in.
Yeah.
And it's not something you have to do all the time. So it's kind of a one-stop shop where you buy
you buy a
box
new
of shells.
you buy a new gun, test it out with one of our boxes. That's about
And
it.
we chose 3 shells in the box because I liked the idea of mixing a bunch of different ammunitions in one box and making them into 3s, because here in a lot of states you can only have 3 rounds in your shotgun, right, at any point in time. So let's say you're sitting here doing a teal season and you're one of them states that goose season kind of overlaps, and you got a flock of geese coming in. You didn't bring that box of goose load, but you brought your Pattern Pros box, and you've got 3 slappers in there. Let me go ahead and load them up. I just happen to have them with me.
Yeah, you don't have
whatever
to
case scenario is.
Yeah, you can take it out to hunting if you wanted to. Like if you're just like, oh, I don't want to pattern. I want to see how it shoots ducks. Well, take the box with you. I mean, they're all non-toxic. They're all available for duck hunting. So I mean, if you want to see how the boss shoots against ducks comparatively to the Apex TSS Steel blend, sure. Yeah. Because paper can only do so much, but how you see it on like with the ducks, that's
right.
But that situation's so fluid and dynamic. I mean, you can't like control exactly how the ducks are coming every single time. So you're like, oh, dude, this so and so sucks compared to this one. Yeah, because your last shot was 40 yards and this one was 10. So
and
it gets kind of dynamic at that point.
And this I guess goes without saying, and a term we used to use up here all the time is that it's common sense, but common sense isn't so common anymore. But
no,
nobody's saying that if you buy the Pattern Pro box, now you're going to turn into this unbelievable wing shooter and you're just pounding birds all the time. It's just another tool to help you get ready. And I don't care what you're shooting. When you got blue wing teal screaming in at you like an F-16, like, you know what I mean? Like, you want to know what your pattern is, because you're going to get one shot at them, and then that's it. And then gone.
They will find every hole in your pattern. Between them and doves, it seems like they're the toughest duck in the world. Like, I don't understand. Like, I can powder 10 yards and they still fly. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, no, dude.
And yet it is almost comical where Like I saw Sitka waders, Rotters
Oh, you're breaking
I've
up,
heard
buddy.
nothing.
Just say that again. Just start off.
Can you hear me now?
I seen Sitka waders. That's what
Sitka
I
waders for $999,
Yep.
and which I've heard nothing but great things about them. I believe they got like a lifetime warranty.
Yep.
Which is awesome. But if you're going to go spend all of this money to sit in the blind,
Yep.
so you've got this $1,000 shotgun, you've got $1,000 waders, you've got a couple $1,000 worth of decoys.
Yep.
But you have no clue what your shell's going to do when the most important time comes, when those birds are actually coming, and you have no clue what's going to happen.
Yep.
is laughable, really. And it's like almost pathetic to the point where you spent so much money and to get a pack of targets and a box of shells is going to cost you less than $100 with shipping, and unless you change guns and choke, that it's not going to change. So the most important thing, I guarantee you there's guys out there even today that'll have $80 pair of waders and some like old flambeau decoys, and they probably go out there and freaking hammer them.
Oh yeah.
In the South, you'll see a guy in a Mountain Dew t-shirt, flip flops, and he'll be out there smacking ducks. He just in a blind,
Yeah.
He just knows what he's shooting. He's been doing it for such a long time.
And that's the thing. Oh, sorry. So go ahead, Christian. I cut you off there. Bro.
No, you're on it. Go ahead.
But that's the thing. We've tried to talk about this on this show so many times, and the simple and I gotta try and say this the right way because I don't want to upset anybody. But if you're new to this, and I'm gonna call it a passion, because once you get hooked, you're fucked.
Yeah.
Like, you're done, right?
Ask all of our wives.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Oh, it's duck season. Great.
But once you get into this, I don't think there's one person, or if you surveyed 20 people, I bet you would get 20 different responses on what the most important thing is when it comes to the tool that you need in order to be the most successful duck hunter. So one guy's going to say calls, one guy's going to say binos for scouting, one guy's going to say, well, you got to have warm gear, one guy's going to say you got to have a premium shotgun, another guy says, well, I got a buddy who's a stone cold killer, boys, the stone cold duck hunter, and he don't care what ammo he shoots. He buys the cheapest stuff that he can find, and that's what goes through his gun. He goes out at the beginning of every year if it's a new load and puts it on paper to know what it's doing out of his platform. But ammo means nothing to him. It's the last of his worries is ammo, because he do put the time in to pattern it and make sure, but he does everything else to make sure that he does it. So it is such a sport that, listen, if you're getting into it and if you want to be the most successful, and I'm not saying you got to go out and spend $900 on waders or you got to spend $2,500 on a shotgun, but there is no quick fix is the point I'm getting at. Like you've got to be as well-rounded as a hunter as possible, and every trick in the book you got to have at your arsenal. And there's still going to be days when there's a bird that flies in front of you and you post up on it and you'll see feathers fall and you'll be like, I know I hit that fucking duck. I know I hit it.
It's definitely not to me it's kind of like the sport is like a domino effect. So like, as a kid, all the little things came first. Like, so I had, obviously my dad taught me how to do it, but after COVID, everybody was locked up inside and everybody wanted to get out. So you had a resurgence of like a bunch of new hunters that got out there and wanted to get outside. They've been listening, Joe Rogan podcasts about elk hunting or this, and this. And they're like, dude, I kind of want to try that. So they get out there, but they don't really have a mentor to take them under their wing. Like, like some of us had growing up. He's like, well, I know this stuff. I've been working on that. So it's just kind of one of those things that, getting the information out there for the people to just learn how to just get better with shooting and everything else. Cause like, you could be Like, I need to work on my duck calling so I can call them in closer because I shoot like crab, so I can kill them at 10 yards instead of 60 yards because I can't talk to a duck. Or I need to work on my decoys to get my spreads better, to fool them in here, to get them on the water or whatever. I mean, it all plays in the part, but essentially it all boils down to how well you shoot. And, that's like the culminating event is when those birds light up and they're locked up in your decoys. Then all the pressure's on you. Like, you've done your part duck calling, you fooled them with your decoy spread, you got in your $20,000 boat to get to where you need to go. So really the only thing that matters is when you touch that duck with that shell. And so if you shoot like crab, you're not doing anybody a service. You got a lot of people that give money to Ducks Unlimited and Delta Waterfowl like they should, but they can't do all the conservation, for you. You got to do your part on your end. And the only thing that really matters is you shooting that duck. If you're going to cripple a bunch of ducks, like, cool, you just gave, Delta Waterfowl all this money, but like, you just crippled 100 ducks or whatever this year. Like, it's not doing anybody any good. All because you just wanted to be lazy and not go out there, or nobody's really taught you the right way on how to do this. So,
Damien, like I listened to a podcast with Sean Weaver and you recently, and like a lot of it, he was harping. He was like, like duck reports, birds are down, and birds are down. And people like Brody just said they'll spend money towards conservation for DU and for Delta, but which can only do so much. Right. But if you're not doing your actual part, which is it's a simple thing, not only are you're going to bring home more ducks because your pattern is you're going to actually have a solid pattern, but you're preventing all of those cripples. So out of 1.7 million ducks that get crippled every year, if we could even just prevent 10% of that, $170,000 ducks, that's going to, and like, if it's just 1 year, if you did it 1 year, all right, in the long run, not a big difference. But over several years, that's going to compound into huge numbers. And then hopefully that allows more people, not even allow, but like forces more people to be, hey, this is working. Yeah. And so one of our goals is to kind of get this into hunter's education. Like Brody and I were talking about earlier, if I don't remember being taught how to pattern a shotgun when I went through hunter's ed. It's just not a thing. It's about, mostly about rifles and actual safety, but it's such a small thing. It doesn't take a whole lot of time. You could go over it in an hour and a half, 2 hours, talk about it. And you could give even just a single shell to each student and actually have them go out and shoot it. And then you actually understand what that is going to do. And you're like, hey, this isn't science. It's not just going to like go exactly where I shoot, no matter what. Mm-hmm. And so getting this knowledge into the hands of more people, especially the people who are getting into hunting, is going to make a huge difference for those in the long run, for those duck numbers. And like I guarantee you, like as a parent, like my oldest, she's been starting to hunt over the last couple of years. If you put the correct shell in their gun, and they can actually go out and kill something instead of, hey, I just bought whatever, and now I'm watching my kid shoot and not kill something. That's frustrating because you want to see them succeed in that. And now I've watched my kid kill a couple deer and a couple ducks now, and it is
rewarding.
I mean, just beyond, beyond that, like it's exhilarating. Where you're like, this is like the greatest thing ever. And so we're trying to get that into that realm to start it from the beginning. Yeah. And along with that, we're trying to work with ammo manufacturers. So if they can potentially help us out to drive costs, get the word out and drive costs down, it's going to just allow it to be that much more affordable to people who duck hunting is already an expensive sport. Yeah. and it just allow more people to do it.
No, absolutely. And I'm going to tell you something right now for anybody that's listening. If you want your significant other to not give you fucking grief every time you come home with ducks and geese. Because if you're taking money out of the bank account to buy decoys and clothes and guns and ammo and everything else, and you're coming home empty-handed every day, I'm going to tell you, your significant other is going to give you some grief. So
absolutely.
Do yourself the favor. But the other thing is, and this is something that I don't know if it's discussed a lot. So like you guys bring up some really good points about the conservation and knowing what your gun platform can do and all this stuff. But let's think about somebody that is very new, that is just coming into duck hunting, and now they're starting to question their shooting ability. So they're going out, they're doing the hunt. They've educated themselves on how birds act, how to set their spread. They're hiding well. They're doing everything right, but they're not knocking down birds. And now they're like, in their subconscious, because it'll get into, and you guys know it because you guys have shot and I've shot. And once that gets into your subconscious that, well, shit, I can't shoot, then you're going to miss every time. I promise you. It gets into your head. It gets into your head. So if you're questioning your ability to hit a target, it could be something as simple as you just didn't pattern your gun, and you just don't know what the beads are doing when they leave your gun.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's the biggest thing. I've been there plenty of times. I try a new shell and I was like, I'm just gonna go take it out. And I'm like, I blame everything. It's like, oh, it's 200 feet per second, like slower. It's this and this. It's fucking with my leads. It's doing that. And I'm like, and then you take it out and you put it on paper. I mean, like, that's the whole thing, is it's going out and just shoot. We don't care what shell you shoot. You can shoot the cheapest shit you want. But if it shoots good out of your gun, just shoot what is best for you. Like you said, you don't have to buy a $2,500 gun. I mean,
that's what happened to Brody's friend a couple months ago. He shot one of our boxes, and he's a lifelong duck hunter, a serious duck hunter. And it was like I think the cheapest shell out of the box, patterned the best for him.
Yeah.
So it's going to do two things. It's going to either justify you buying that expensive box of shells, or you're gonna hey, this box is $15, $20 cheaper, but it actually patterns better. All right, cool. I don't have to spend. That's already saving you money right off the bat. You're like, well, I can go buy Winchester Super X instead of buying some kind of bismuth or whatever. They're like, hey, it hits harder, but it doesn't, for whatever reason, doesn't pattern as good. Or so there's so many things that will.
So boys, I gotta ask
money in the long run.
Oh, sorry. I gotta ask this question and sort of kind of switch gears a little bit, because for anybody that's been in the military, in the Army, whatever, you sort of kind of understand it. But for anybody that's never served, I think the idea of three absolutely complete strangers coming together, becoming friends, starting a business, hanging out, hunting, all of that stuff, it is sort of kind of foreign to a lot of people, right? So, I know my friends, all of us are all from different walks of life, all different experiences growing up, the whole bit, right? Like, and I've got some buddies that never in a million years would you think that him and I are as close as what we are. Can you one of you, Christian, you haven't talked that much, so let's give it, let's lob this one in for you to knock it apart.
We don't let him talk a whole lot. He's real unique. He might just start talking about OSHA regulations. So just heads up.
No, but seriously, like, give us a background. Like, how did you guys meet? Where did you meet? And tell us about tell the listeners about the first duck hunt that the three of you's done.
Well, the one thing the one thing that we all had in common is that, see, we all three served in the Marine Corps, and that's a close community anyway. So, when you get out of the Marine Corps and you're out in the civilian world and you meet another Marine, you always have a conversation. Okay, you can always talk about something. Well, when you take that a step further and you go, you are a Marine, but you're also a hunter, and all of you are in a foreign area that you've never been in, which was in our case, right?
Yep.
I grew up in the South. Ryan grew up in Washington, but lived in Ohio for a while, and then he was stationed in Hawaii before California. Brody was in Oklahoma, and we all grew up around all this timber, all these woods. And so when we moved to California, we didn't have that anymore. It was just barren land, and it was just a totally different experience. So we started connecting on that, and then figuring out how can we hunt that? What's the best way to be successful in hunting that? And that's where we came together, was because not only were we Marines, but we were hunters. And so we grew closer. And then we started just going out there and experiencing what it was like to hunt a different terrain. And then as we went through these hunts, like the first hunt, golly, I don't remember, guys. I don't remember our first hunt together.
I remember the first one with Chris.
I think we started mule deer hunting at first.
Yeah.
And we went out. One of the most memorable hunts, let me say, it was when Ryan got us lost in the mountains of California.
We weren't lost.
And I thought for sure we were not making it back that day.
I think an infantry Marine would know like land nav and whatnot, but
right.
And right where we were at the whole time.
Yeah,
it was on the map. We just couldn't get back to where we needed to go.
Yeah,
but we shared this like close, this close to death experience. And in the same exact area, when Brody was there, me and Brody slept underneath a random picnic table out there in the middle of the desert and thought for sure we were going to get fired by bears that night. So little experiences we had hunting together brought us closer. And then, guys, what was our first duck hunt? It was on base, but what was our first?
It was I wasn't there that day. It was on base. It was at one of the Stewart Mesa ponds. And go ahead, Christian, and let everyone know what your first two ducks were.
I don't remember.
Yeah, out there on the West Coast, I was pretty fortunate. My first two ducks were cinnamon teals. Drakes.
Oh,
yeah. So I actually have one of them mounted.
I bet.
Naturally, and that was something that no one ever talked about either. I mean, guys, how many times did we shoot, cinnamon teal out there? It was almost an annoyance in a way. You're like,
wow.
you know what I mean? And that's not a lot of people get to experience.
Yeah. It's like us on the east coast of Canada, black ducks, like, just crazy amounts of black ducks, right? And we'll laugh, and someone, like, we had a buddy, Wade Shoemaker, come on the show one time, and he was like, you ever line up a black duck hunt, you let me know. And I think Wade's from down in the south somewhere. I want to say he's down in Georgia or something like that.
I think he's I know he's down in the south, but yeah, if you line that black duck hunt up, I'll come along with him, because I mean, like, we in the Central Flyway, like, we had one guy out of like that I know of shoot one here, and he just mixed in with a bunch of mallards. Just thought it was a really dark mallard hen. And then he started looking at it more and more, and it's a black duck, and he was like,
so
where he came from? So
I killed a couple of them in Ohio, and that's I'd only been on a couple duck hunts, and we was on a Ohio River tributary, and we went and jump shot this spot before we actually went and set up that evening, and I think I killed two of them, and it was like, oh, these are cool, and my buddy was like, oh yeah, those are black ducks, and I didn't even know anything really about it at the time, and then it was like late, like once I really started to get into it, it was like, oh, that's kind of special. Like, a lot of people don't get that, and so I didn't get to appreciate it at the time. But
and I think that's like, I'm not a deer hunter. Like, I hunt ducks. That's all I hunt. I'll hunt moose a little bit back in my home province. But that doesn't happen often anymore. So I don't know a lot about any of the other pursuits out there. But
I'll shoot everything, but I don't. Ducks is my main thing too. Like elks, yeah, that's cool and whatnot, but like I don't know. There's something about ducks working. I don't know if it's the whole culminating event of like scouting, planning, finding, decoy spread, like everything coming together to work at once instead of just like going out there like, oh, found a big animal, let me just get within 500 yards and I can poke him.
Yeah,
like it's not like that. Like you have to talk to the duck.
Yeah, it's much more intimate with
definitely more dynamic, and in my opinion, not saying that any of that stuff is any better or any worse, because I mean, of course, I would love to do it and everything, but just something about ducks is when you see them and then you do a little soft call and whatnot, and they just hook and they turn around, you're like, oh, I just did my job.
Damien, what were you saying?
Well, I just think like just what you had touched on, Christian, like you're saying, like, and all you guys are saying, like it was almost a hindrance to be shooting cinnamon teal, whereas that's a dream bird for me to be able to see come into my flock. And then Brody, you say if you can get a chance to shoot a black duck, then you're into.
Yeah.
I think that's why duck hunters. I think that's why duck hunters are so well traveled, because there's, depending on where you are on the continent, it's a total different group of birds. Like, so the one that gets me, and you guys have shot it a million times. I know you have. I've yet to even see one, so I don't know. But spoonies, like, what's the hate with spoonies? Like,
I'll shoot one of those boot lip things every time. Every time. Does not matter.
I would love to have one of those. I would love to be able to say that I got a spoonie, but there's so much.
Dude, you're missing out.
They're the mallards. They're the mallards of Southern California.
Yeah,
and they're in full really coloration in California too. So like here in Oklahoma, when we shoot spoonies, you don't really get like the full plumed ones. A lot of them are still brown and then kind of molten and still getting their colors. But in California, they were like every single one of them that came in was like wall mounters, and it was like big green head, all like. And you see him, like, that's a spoonie. I'm shooting him. Like it's because a lot of people, some people are purists and won't shoot them. But not me.
I don't understand it though. Like, what's the purest about? Like, why?
I don't know.
I don't know.
People say they don't taste good. They taste just fine. I've eaten a ton of them.
Yeah.
Like, especially like I love duck wrapped in bacon with cream cheese and a pepperoni. Like it is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And for me, the only duck I've eaten just about most species of duck, just about every puddle duck. The only one, I guess it's a diver, but a bufflehead is the only one I'm like, I will not eat a bufflehead. They just, for me, I'm like, that one doesn't taste good. Everything else, including spoonies. Buddy,
you come to Canada and I'm gonna show you a merganser, and if you can get that down your gullet, good on you.
No,
because that's fucking
horrible.
Won't do it. I won't even consider shooting those things. I mean, like
I've got one that I'll put on the wall, and that's it.
Yeah.
I'll shoot. Our area, I'm not going to be wasting my time with 60 divers that come ripping in the decoys and you're done. And like, I'm not, no. Give me green.
It goes back to one of those things like some people don't like spoonies. I live in Florida now, and there's a large population of divers. We don't have we don't get really mallards. We don't get a whole lot of widgeon. We get a whole lot of gadwall.
Yeah.
We get, we have a lot of mergansers, and we have a share down here. But here's the thing: it's all about the area that you're in. Like you were just saying, is what people prefer. So I was in a gentleman the other day, and he swears to it. He's like, I can cook you a merganser to where you'll love it. And I'm like, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I do not trust that guy already.
I don't know.
You are the only person on God's green earth that can probably feel that way then.
Well, tell you what, this is. Oh, sorry, Christian, I cut you off. Go, buddy.
Oh no, I was just saying, I'm excited to try it, but I mean, you go, California. I went swimming in a dirty pond for a merganser because, you know what I mean. And we found out you should have been there. Most depressing day. We thought this thing was a beautiful duck, and
it wasn't depressing. It was hilarious.
We really hyped him up.
I went swimming in a freezing cold, dirty pond, and I was like, "This is going to be awesome." Didn't get the duck. We ended up having to get a fishing pole, and when we reeled it in and looked at it, it was just, oh
Brody,
man.
Brody, do you have that picture?
That is
like
fucking
as
awesome.
I thought I wear glasses on. The Marine Corps gave those to me, so like I'm sitting there and I'm looking at the end of this pond. I was like, can't really see it. I didn't see it get shot, so I'm like, I can't ID it. So as it started getting closer and closer, that's fucking sawtooth. Like that's over again.
Oh my gans. Well, I
See,
tell you what, this is what I've learned by doing this show is from a Canadian perspective, the only place I thought that was good duck hunting in the States was Arkansas, Minnesota, Kansas, Missouri, right? Like those, and then if you wanted to get
Rightfully
into the
so.
seed, right? And then when we started doing this show and we started talking to fellas from all over Canada and the States, and I got educated on birds. I can tell you, Ryan, that if I can ever pull it together, I have never seen the amount of widgeon in my life that gets shot than what gets shot up in the Pacific Northwest, up in Washington. Like it is stupid how much widgeon is up there.
Them and pintail are my two favorite birds. Like I obviously love shoot mallards like everybody else, but pintail and widgeon for me because they're almost always talking.
Yeah,
and
it's easy to talk
I
to
love them.
Yeah. If I can pull it together, buddy, I'm coming to Washington and we're going to do a smackdown on widgeon because I've shot widgeon, but nothing, like ones and twos, right?
I'll have to meet you. I live in South Carolina now, where we don't have almost any ducks. We've got it's either wood ducks or
rubber ducks.
Rubber ducks. If you got good private land that you can flood and plant, like some of the plantations, they really hammer them. And I didn't even really duck hunt more than a couple times when I was in Washington. It was still just I didn't grow up hunting. I grew up fishing since I could walk.
Right.
And had to get myself into it with some friends and guys in college, but I really missed out because talking with other people, they're like, I mean, it's right there in Canada, and then all those birds, a lot of those birds are coming all the way down to California. So I missed out, but we killed a bunch of ducks in Southern California.
If I can real quick, switch gears. Brian just kind of reminded me of something.
Yeah.
And you touched on it earlier, Damien, about duck hunters being so well traveled. Duck hunters also too. One thing I've learned is that a lot of duck hunters who live, like the majority of duck hunters that I've met that live throughout the States, don't just hunt ducks. For instance, when I first met Brody 5, 6 years ago, however long ago it was, he was a birds guy. And you ask him, what do you like to hunt? He's like, I like my birds. Turkey, dove, quail, upland, ducks. And then me growing up, I was a deer guy. I grew up in the South where we didn't have a large duck population. So the mainstream hunting was white-tailed deer, turkey, dove. And so that's cool to me, I think, is about the community, is because you're right, man. Once you go on your first duck hunt, you're hooked. Like you forget about it. You know what I mean? Every season you're looking forward to that first duck hunt. But at the same time, like we for Pattern Pros, we geared it towards duck hunting mainly, but we didn't forget about that. We didn't forget about the turkey hunters. So something that we discussed is doing a box for turkey loads. Because turkey hunting is the same kind of way. Now, you're not shooting nearly as many shells. You may not need as many shells, to pattern, but it's super important on what you're shooting, right?
Absolutely, buddy. You get one bird. You get one chance, right? You get that one, you got the
that's
one
the one
chance.
thing I have noticed is with turkey hunters, they are more prone to pattern their gun.
Oh, absolutely.
Like they are that is like the pre-season stuff between scouting and whatnot. They're like, hey, I gotta go shoot the gun because there's so many different like turkey loads out there, and with this new TSS and this different choke tube, they're like, man, there's 300 BBs in a 10-inch circle at 40 yards, and you're like, all right, cool. But when it comes to duck hunting, and those same guys, some of them would just be like, "Yeah, I just shoot this." Well, what's it look like? Well, I've never patterned. You did so much extensive work, on your turkey stuff. Maybe it's because of like you said, you get one bird, you get one chance. But
the reward benefit is like if you miss out on some bird, you're not the first dude that missed out on a flock of teal that come through, right? So it doesn't feel so bad. But if you're sitting and watching that tom for an hour come across that field, and you pull up on them and you don't raise a feather, all because you didn't pattern your gun, well, you sort of kind of feel like an idiot, right?
That's another thing too. To go back to that question you asked me is kind of how did we come together on this?
Yeah.
There's a big disconnect I identified between the, larger species hunters, kind of like your mule deer hunters, your deer hunters. I mean, Brian have spent hours on a range trying to zero in our rifles.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get it down to, we'll be shooting at 300 yards. I'm an overachiever. I like to try to get it at 500 yards when we were in California. And we would try to get it within a certain diameter, but we never spent that time on the shotguns. Why? I always wondered that. Mm-hmm. Why didn't we spend so much time on these shotguns trying to figure out what we were shooting and kind of where I wonder what the disconnect there was. And I think it's just the amount of ducks that people will go and kill, and they take advantage of it. You don't really think about it, but I know for a fact that if you had a choice to end that hunt at 9 a.m. rather than having to sit in the blind until noon and being like, all right, we got 4 today.
Yeah, I get it, man.
Yeah,
I get it.
You go out there for the experience, but at the same time, everyone's going to prefer, for the most part, to go limit out.
Absolutely.
Then, hey, I shot 1 or 2, or it's like, and then, or especially, hey, I shot an entire box and I came home with 6 feathers. And
boys, I'm going to tell you, I love a sunrise as much as the next guy, and I love hanging out with my buddies as much as the next guy. But I'm going to tell you, I love it a lot more when I got a full strap of birds.
Yeah,
right.
Like I said earlier, you don't go out there to stare at trees.
No, I get it, right? I don't take anything for granted these days. If I'm in a blind with my buddies and we're having a laugh and we're drinking hot coffee, I'm happy. Trust me, I'm happy. But I'm a lot happier when I got a full strap of birds when I'm on my way home. I can promise you that.
Oh yeah.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but it feels like every other weekend you go hunting. I've got my wonderful wife always telling me we got plans at 2:00. So I've got to get in there. I got to catch a bag and I got to get out of there by a certain time.
Yeah, absolutely.
God, I'm not, if not, the next week is going to be a hassle trying to get back out to the block.
Absolutely.
I'm in there.
Just do it and just ask for forgiveness afterwards. Like, just I don't know why you ask, just leave. Like half the time my wife doesn't even know. She's like, you didn't even say bye. And I'm like, yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Just gonna give you a chance to fully wake up by the time the boat's hooked up and I'm already out on the road. I'm not trying to catch any flack while I'm trying to get duck hunting. Then I'll be worried about that and not worried about like not dying in the dark when I hit it.
And then it's that much easier too when you do bring home those birds, and then you're hey, like, oh, that tastes really good, and then because then you're typically taking care of dinner.
Yeah.
So then it's also that one less thing that they got to worry about. Hey, don't worry, babe. I know I got up at 2:00 this morning, but like I'll take care of this and I'll cook dinner.
Yeah.
Oh,
absolutely.
Man,
absolutely.
Our wives do not remember the hunts that we went on, the 3 of us. They don't remember the hunts that we went on when we were successful. They only remember the hunts that we went on and didn't kill. They're reminded of us all the time.
Yeah, no doubt. Boys, we're almost at that 60-minute mark. And I think this is a good spot to end it. But I don't want this to be the only time that you guys come on the show. I want you guys to come back on the show again. I'd love it if you guys came back on the show, and don't wait for me to send you an invite. When you guys got something you want to talk about, you just fire me a message. And Ryan, I promise this time I'll be a lot more organized and make sure we get the time right. But we will use the 24-hour clock from now on.
Military time will be the way.
But no, boys, I really appreciate it. And like I said, I think it's a fabulous idea that you guys have. Um, Anybody that's listening, please check them out because it's a great idea. It's a great small business. It's a great to see more veteran entrepreneurs. And listen, it is constant. It is your responsibility as a bird hunter to dispatch your birds as safely and as humanely as possible. We'll do a quick around the table, boys, and we'll end it right there. So, Christian, to you, buddy, any last words?
No, I mean, I really do appreciate the time. I think we had an awesome conversation. I look forward to the next time we talk and we can see the improvements that we've made as a company and to the community.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, really appreciate it. I look forward to coming to Canada one day. I mean, that's been
buddy.
a dream.
Oh, I'd love it. I'd love to be able to host you guys.
I hope they stop you at the border and frisk you violently.
Full
Like,
cavity search.
Al Qaeda, he's coming in, dude.
Brody, to you, buddy.
No, I would definitely love to come back, especially after our duck season down here in Oklahoma, just to kind of to give some feedback and everything else I find. I'm going to be shooting a different load this year and really focusing on the data on how this load differently does things comparatively to steel and everything else. So like hopefully I'll have some more analytics to bring back to the show after the season. But but yeah, I mean, if anything, if we have any new products or whatnot, I would love to come on here.
Absolutely, buddy. Open invite anytime. Ryan, to you, my man.
Again, this was awesome. I mean, anytime you're going to sit here and BS about duck hunting, especially, it never gets old. We can do it here all day,
and we could have kept going for another hour easy.
Oh, 1,000%. Wow. So definitely look forward to coming back on the show. We're actually going to be at the G&H Decoy Expo for our first expo next weekend. Was it the 23rd, I believe? They're in Henrietta, Oklahoma.
Okay.
Yep.
So if anybody's gonna be around, come check us out. If not, patternprosusa.com. And we're working on getting prices even further down to make it even more affordable. But we are really excited, and I think we have a chance to potentially revolutionize the way people go about hunting birds. And so we're excited. We can't wait to bring you some more updates the next time we talk.
Awesome. I love it. I love it, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, check them out. Pattern Pros. They're on social. They're on their website. Go check them out. I think you'll be genuinely surprised and excited about what they're doing. And for our Canadian guys, listen, Canadian guys and girls that's listening, listen, you can order your targets and it do make a difference. It do make a difference when you see what your round is doing. And don't give me this shit about you can just use cardboard. Yeah, of course you can just use cardboard, but it's a lot cooler if you're using cool targets. And that's all I got to say about it. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is episode 159 of the Union 0430. Please like and subscribe. Really means the world to us. Do the same for the boys here. Remember, surround yourself with good people. Good things will happen. Don't be fucking douchebags to one another. And big love. Until next time.